Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is gonna be my first video. Very excited. I'm someone who watches a lot of booktube, so I just thought it would be really fun to make my own channel. So one thing I'm gonna try to do with all of my videos, might be ambitious, but I'm going to try it, is do a drink pairing. The channel is Books and Brews, and while most of it will probably be beer, coffee, or tea, occasionally there'll be some other type of probably alcoholic beverage that I would like to pair with my video. So today I am drinking can't see, there's a glare, but it's Smirnoff Spiked Seltzer, Pink Apple Rosé. It's okay. It's all right. When I first bought them, I didn't realize they were seltzers. I thought it was just delicious pink apple Smirnoff, you know? We'll see how it goes. Okay, so today we are gonna be talking about the 20 books that I would like to read in 2020. This is no particular order. I just made a list of books. Number one is going to be The Wife Between Us by Greer, Hendricks, and Sarah Pekkanen. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of these authors before, but I have read An Anonymous Girl. I read their second book first, and I didn't really like that one very much, but I've heard that if you didn't like An Anonymous Girl, you like this, and vice versa. If you don't like this, you liked An Anonymous Girl. So we'll see. I know some people didn't like either, so I'm kind of hoping I don't fall into that category because I really want to like these authors' books. I like their writing. I think it's really good. It just, the stories haven't necessarily worked out for me. This one, all I really know is that it has to do with an ex-wife and her husband's new wife, and that's all I know. It's all I want to know. I want to know little to nothing about the thrillers I'm going to read. The next book on the list is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Very popular booktube author. I have read his other two books, much like the first one. I've read all the other ones. Final Girls was okay. It was all right. I loved, adored The Lock Every Door. 5 stars. I read it during a 24-hour readathon. Absolutely loved it. This one I've been wanting to read and I've gone to pick it up multiple times, but so yeah, the only thing I know about The Last Time I Lied is it has to do with like a group of friends, and one of them went missing, and then this one girl, or maybe all of them, go back to the summer camp, and she's trying to figure out what happened. That's all I know. That's all I want to know. Okay. Next on my list, I don't own, but it's Horns by Joe Hill. Now, I have read Nosferatu, I've read Heart-Shaped Box, and I read The Fireman, and liked all of them. Nosferatu was my favorite. Heart-Shaped Box was amazing. The Fireman was kind of like The Stand part 2, so you know, take with that what you will. I enjoyed it, but you may not like that sort of thing. I'm a big sucker for the disease apocalypse type books. But anyway, Horns is all I know. Well, I know that the movie had Daniel Radcliffe in it, but I haven't seen it, and I think that this guy wakes up and he has horns on his head, and that's all I know, and it's a horror book, and that's all I want to know. I try not to read too much into synopsis of the books that I'm reading because I just kind of want to be surprised. Let's see, next book on my list is Kin by Kealan Patrick Burke. Now, this is one of those books that I have wanted to read for years, like probably 2, maybe 3 years. I'm not sure how long it's been out, but I think at least 2 years. And my library doesn't have it, and for some reason I've just never bit the bullet and bought it off Amazon or wherever. I haven't been able to find it as far as I can remember on like Book Depository or Book Outlet, so it's on my list, but I just haven't read it yet. I did read his short story collection. I read this in December. It's called Dead of Winter, and they're all winter themed short stories, and I really, really liked it. So that made me even more hyped to read Kin because I don't know, there's something so appealing about him as an author, and I just haven't gotten around to it. This one is about, well, all I really know is that this girl like walks away bloodied from this massacre or like event that has taken her friends' lives. The summary on Goodreads says it's very reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm sure I'm gonna love it. Let's see, next on my list, next one on my list is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I hope I'm saying that right. I think I am. And this is one of those books that I know I'm gonna love it. Like, I just know I am. It's gothic, which I love. It is mysterious, and I know that it has something to do with like this woman has just gotten married and she goes to live with her husband at Manderley, which is where he lives, and all of a sudden, like, she's haunted, not like, I don't know about literally, but all these memories of his wife Rebecca, and that's just all I know. The next book on my list of 20 is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is kind of an interesting cover, I think, but it shows the women on it. But most people know what this book is about. It takes place in a dystopian version of the United States called Gilead, and the main character we're following, Offred, is a handmaid, and I don't know all of the things that they do. I've only seen like bits and pieces of the TV show when my dad was watching it, but I know one of the things they do is like have babies for women who can't. It's like a dystopian society where women are treated poorly. Dystopian. I don't know, like America today. This one is called Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore by Matthew Sullivan. Now this one, I have actually started reading. Previously, I was listening to the audiobook, and for whatever reason, I just stopped listening to it. But it has something to do, well, okay, so at the beginning you're following two characters. There's a woman who works at the bookstore, and then there's a man who comes in the store frequently, like it's somebody that she knows, and he hangs himself in the bookstore. And I think the rest of the book is her figuring out why he hanged himself, who he really was, that sort of thing. But it was really good when I was reading it, and the audiobook was really good, and I just never finished it. So trying to finish this one this year. The next one on my list is Fantasticland by Mike Bockoven. Now this one is one I have been wanting to read for so long, and it's one of those books that I just knew I wanted to read this book for so long, and for some reason I haven't read it. I'm sure we all have books like this. I've wanted to read this for so long and I haven't read it. This takes place, well, it's interesting. It's told in like interview format, and it's basically recounting, I think, like 30 or 40 days in an amusement park called Fantasticland. And what happens is there's a hurricane, and because of where this amusement park is built, the people get trapped in Fantasticland for 30 to 40 days, and it just turns into like, it just goes, it's so bizarre. They just like start fighting each other, and I don't know. I know it's like a disaster and it's crazy, and a bunch of people in one of my book clubs online, or not where we read books, but like we discuss books, have recommended this to me, and I'm just so ready to read it. I have it from the library. It's a library book. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. The next book on my list is The Dead Zone by Stephen King. As you can see, I'm a fan. I started reading Stephen King books from the beginning. That's not how I originally started reading them. I think I've read maybe 8 of them, and just randomly, like I've read Salem's Law, I've read Pet Sematary, It, The Long Walk, some other ones. I have to read The Shining before I can read this, but I kind of, when I wrote this list, I had hoped that I would be done with The Shining by the time 2020 rolled around. I'm not, but I'm going to read technically both of them. They kind of go in conjunction because I won't read this until I finish The Shining. I'm not sure what this one is about, to be honest with you, but it's Stephen King. I'm gonna like it. Well, I'm gonna read it. I don't know that I'm gonna like it, but this is like I got this off Thrift Books. You can kind of see it's a little bit bent, but it's just such a beautiful cover, and it's got my main man on the inside looking something. But yeah, so this is on my list. I'm not certain what it's about, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna read it regardless. The next book on my list is Horrorstor by Grady Hendricks. This one's kind of famous because it, as far as I know, it looks like an IKEA catalog when you actually physically read the book, and it's like takes place in a store that's similar to IKEA, but it's a horror book. I've read one other Grady Hendricks. It was My Best Friend's Exorcism, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm really excited to read this one and just continue on my line of reading his, but I thought this would be a good one because I believe it's his first one, so I wanted to go back to the beginning. The next book on my list is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Books in Lala, that's how she pronounces it, so that's what I'm going with. This one, again, I don't know that much about it. I know it has something to do with the film industry and somebody dies or something like that. And that's all I know. It's a heavy book, and I know it has like some cool like inserts and things like that, a la Illuminae or House of Leaves. It's got like really cool stuff like that. Let's get a drink in here. The next book on my list is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. Now, this one I got for Thrillerathon. I mean, it's been on my list, but I just got it from the library for Thrillerathon to read a book that was recommended to you because April from Getting Hugga With It talks about this book all the time, and it sounds amazing. It's an amnesia thriller, which I have never read as far as I can think of. Maybe I have and I just don't remember, which is kind of funny. Anyway. This one is about a woman who's in a coma and she wakes up and she can't remember where she is. Oh, just kidding. Okay, she wakes up in a hospital. She can't move, she can't speak, she can't open up her eyes. She can hear everyone around her, but they have no idea. She doesn't remember what happened to her, but she has a sneaking suspicion her husband had something to do with it, or her sister, or maybe both. That sounds so good. That's all I want to read. Putting it aside. The next book on my list is Unbury Carol by Josh Malerman. I've read Bird Box, absolutely loved it. One of my best friends recommended it to me before the movie came out. The trash movie came out, and I loved it. I think I read it in a day and I absolutely adored it. This one, however, doesn't have very good reviews. So this one is about somebody named Carol, and it says she dies many times, but her deaths are not final. So that's all I know. That's all I want to know. Am I a broken record? Yes. The next book on my list is Disappearance at Devil's Rock by Paul Tremblay. I've read 2 other Paul Tremblay books. I'm not sure if he has more. Well, I haven't. Yeah, okay. He has more. I've read 2 other Paul Tremblay books. I first read Head Full of Ghosts and absolutely adored it. It was one of my favorite books. In the year I read it, I believe it was 2018. And then I read A Cabin at the End of the World and really did not like it. Disappearance at Devil's Rock is about a boy named Tommy who goes missing. And I assume it's the events that follow and kind of what happens as a result of that. Again, I don't want to know too much going into it. The next book on my list is Wayward by Blake Crouch. I read Pines by Blake Crouch in 2018, so almost 2 years ago now. I think it was early 2018. So I'm probably gonna have to reread Pines before I can read Wayward. I don't own either of them, so that would be something I maybe would look into. But what I can remember, Wayward is about a man who wakes up. He's an FBI agent. He wakes up, he doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know what's going on, and he's in this really strange town. It's very a la Twin Peaks. Not that somebody wakes up and doesn't know where they are in Twin Peaks, but the vibes of the town is very Twin Peaks. And I can't tell you what Pines is about because that would spoil Wayward, and there's a huge twist in Wayward, so I'm not going to spoil that, but I'm very excited to continue on in this video, on this series. The next book on my list is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I'm not sure why this is on this list. I don't know if when I was making this list at the end of 2019, I had high hopes, I had big dreams. I do have the audiobooks of all of this series that were gifted to me, but I'm not really a high fantasy reader, so I'm not sure how this is gonna go for me, but I'm willing to give it a shot, especially on audiobook, and I've heard the show is amazing, so I just know that there's like 8 or 10 books in this series, so I don't know how that's gonna go for me, but this is on the list. We will give it a go. The next book on my list is The Nightmare Room by Chris Sorensen. This is one that I can't remember where I saw it or what I was recommended or who I was recommended it by, but it just sounded so good. I know it's like horror, paranormal type of book, and it's about a man and a woman who moved to this small town. I think they moved to the small town to help the man's father, and it's just a weird small town and things happen, and I guess that's sort of a theme in this video. I really like stuff that happens in small towns, weird small town vibes, like just odd. I come from a small town. I don't know that any of them are as weird as any of the books I've read, but I like reading about them. The next book on my list is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I had to throw one classic on this list, and of course I chose a classic horror because I'm a huge horror fan. I know that Mara from Books Like Woe did a read-along to this last year, but unfortunately I wasn't following her at the time, and I really wish I was, because I could have chatted with people about reading this. I've heard mixed things about this, reading this now. Like, I don't know, I think it depends on if you're a classics person or not, and I'm really not sure if I'm a classics person. The most recent one I read was The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I really loved it, but it did take me a couple months to get through it, and that book is not very big. So we'll see how this goes. So for those of you who don't know, Dracula is a vampire story. I know most of the novel, or a good chunk of the novel, you're following Jonathan Harker, who is a man who comes to visit Count Dracula, and weird stuff is happening in Transylvania around him, and again, that's all I know. I mean, this is a classic story. I've seen the Bela Lugosi movie, so I kind of know what's going to happen, but I'm guessing that there's more in here than was in that movie. The next book on my list is The Hunger by Alma Katsu. This book is about the Donner Party, which happened in the 1800s. I know the Donner Party was trying to head west, and they got trapped, I believe, in the Rocky Mountains, and during the winter, and it was very cold, and they ended up having to eat each other and things like that. And this, I think, puts a little bit of a twist on it. I think there might be some fantastical elements in it, but I've heard good things, and I'm really interested in reading this. She has another book coming out this year in 2020 called The Deep, which is about the Titanic, or it's Titanic adjacent, and I'm also very excited for that. I kind of like the idea of pairing historical events and then turning them into horror. Love that. And the final book on my list is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I'm sure everybody here has heard of this book. This is a very, very popular series on BookTube, but I have never read it. If you don't know, this series is, it takes place in a utopian society where death doesn't happen anymore, and then these people, Scythes, are tasked with going and killing certain people in order to keep population down. And this book follows a boy and a girl, or maybe a man and a woman, I'm not sure how old they are, and they're trying to become Scythes, like they're apprentice Scythes. And this book follows them, and that's really all I know, and I'm excited to read it. Okay, so those are 20 books that I would like to read in 2020. If you've read any of them, feel free to let me know what you thought, or recommend me any ones that are similar to that. I would really love that. Of course, this is my first video, so please feel free to like or subscribe if you enjoy the content. Hopefully there'll be more like it, or I can improve upon it. If you think there's anything I can do better next time, please let me know. I would love to take constructive criticism. Just don't be an asshole. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.